911 emergency? Your call is very important to us. Please stay on the line, and your call will be answered in the order it was received.
To kind of go through scenarios of home invasions and what's going on relative to what's going on today, and what could happen even if society itself actually falls apart. And the reason why I wanted you on here is I wanted to get a kind of a feel of how you handled it with your own children. People have kind of an aversion of having guns in the home, especially if they have children. And I just want to, how many kids do you have, just so everybody knows on YouTube?
We've got 3 kids, and right now their ages are 16, 14, and 11. But we've had guns since before any of them were born.
Okay. And so when, approximately when did you have a plan in case someone came into the house or some kind of home invasion situation happened? Did you have something set up with your family? Did you sit down? I mean, how'd you go about bringing it up?
You know, the plan, and as any plan should, has developed and progressed over the years. And as the kids get older and able to understand and able to do a little bit more, the plan has changed. But we actually have a couple of different plans. One is there's a plan for if there is an invasion and mom and dad are in the house. And another plan is that if they're home by themselves and we're out either at a date night or doing, whether we're at work or whatever, our kids are old enough to be left home alone for a few hours at a time. And so we have a couple of different plans. But that plan, again, has started from a very young age, since, before they were, old enough to be even, part of the plan. We had a plan where, hey, you get the baby and you go into this room where there's a closet and there's safety, and you, again, telling this to my wife, where she would then, go in there with the gun that was relatively easy to shoot and didn't have to really aim real well to be able to hit whatever came through the door. More like a 12-gauge shotgun.
That's interesting that you say that, because that's one of the things that I proposed in the video prior to this, is there should be a spot where your kids and, say, your wife will know where to go while you handle the person coming through the door, and kind of hovel into a spot, kind of the safe, I guess you can call it a safe room, or a room that you know where everybody should go to while you deal with the threat. But
if the family's home, then if the entire family's home, we go to one spot. If it's just the kids, we have a particular area in our house that is extremely secret. Nobody knows it's there. It's very protected and covered by some drywall that you can't notice that there's removable piece of drywall there. And there's a safe place for the kids to be able to go in the event that they need to go to a place like that.
So you even have like an actual kind of safe cubby space, whatnot, a secret little room that you've put in the house. Wow, that's interesting. That's something I didn't even think of. So, see, this is why we're putting you on the spot here. So, did you notice any kind of, how old did you begin to introduce to your kids?
Like when you're talking with your kids about, stranger danger, you don't say, hey, if this boogeyman comes and comes to come grab you off the street, these are the things he's gonna, sexually assault you, and he's gonna steal you, and he's gonna try to kill you. You don't give the kids that kind of information. You say, don't talk to strangers, don't eat things from strangers. If your parents, if a stranger comes to pick you up from school and you don't know who they are, and they say, hey, your mom and dad told me to come get you, run in the other direction, you're preparing your kids at different levels for different things.
Right.
And so it's not ever a point where you say, okay, if someone breaks in the house, this is what's going to happen. you start on a as they're smaller, and hey, if something happens here, you're going to go with mom, and you're going to be safe in this location. You give them as much information as you think they can handle at that particular time in their life, and then you can start to grow it from there.
So you're
when they were old enough to talk and to walk, then they knew that this is where they went. They knew that this is how they handled things.
So you're
if they were old enough to learn how to shoot and aim and things like that, then their level of understanding would increase.
So your preparedness plan changes based on their understanding and age development. So that's
you have to.
Yeah.
If your plan is 10 years old, then it's with antiquated ideas. It's not going to work with the changing environment around you.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great point. Now, as far as guns are concerned, how old did you begin training your children on how to shoot?
On how to shoot was a little bit later than what a gun is and what a gun does. We do family home evenings every Monday night in our home, and a couple of times a year I will pull all of the guns out of the gun safe, and we have many. We'll pull all of the guns out, and the kids are allowed to touch them. They're allowed to put their hands on them. They're allowed to pick them up. They're allowed to look at them. And I think that helps to dismiss any of the curiosity that kids normally have. Things that they're not allowed to touch. You put a gun on the counter and say, hey, don't you touch that. They're going to want to touch it just because you told them not to. But if you can start to educate them and let them know the reasons why we don't touch it and what it's capable of doing, it becomes a much different scenario. So first we started with education on it long before we started teaching them how to shoot. And I think that's an important factor. But to answer your question is when did we start teaching them how to shoot? As soon as they were capable of holding the gun and keeping it in place from recoil. For one it was 5, for another it was 8. So it just depends on the child and what they're capable of doing.
Oh, so you judge your time period or time frame of when you're going to train them or how you're going to train them based on their maturity level as well.
Yeah, they each got the education on the guns, and it's an ongoing education. We get new guns all the time. I bought 4 guns in the last 3 months. So there's ongoing education that takes place there, and that's continually. Again, we're still doing that today. But each kid, you have to make sure that kid is not only mature enough, but physically mature enough as well. They have to be able to hold the gun. They have to be able to understand what's taking place and not turn around and aim it at everybody that's standing behind them. They have to be able to follow certain rules and criteria before they're capable of pointing a gun downrange and keeping it downrange.
Did you ever run into an issue when you weren't home with you have multiple guns in the house. I don't want to go into how many. With those guns in the house, was there ever a period of time where they did break a rule or treat that weapon with any forms of, with the immaturity or disrespect, or pick it up when you're not home? Was there any type of situation like that most parents worry about, like having guns and have, do you have a lock system on them, or are they freely open that if they found them that they're loaded? How do you deal with that situation, and have you had that situation happen?
There's a couple questions there. If I don't get to all of them, just remind me to ask again. But we have about 90% of our guns locked up behind safe. I'm a firm believer that if your gun's in a safe when you need it, you're not going to be able to get to it in time. We have several guns strategically placed around the house so that if there is an invasion, we will have easy access to protection, easy access to protect ourselves and our families from invaders. So those guns are strategically placed around the house, and as far as I know, we're not home all the time, and those guns are always in their place. There's never been an incident in this home with those weapons. Now, when we have had those educational meetings, there's inevitably, they're children. So there are times when when they're acting immature, but that's the time that I want to see that. I mean, not the time that you want to see it, but if it's going to happen, you want to be there to correct it and change it. So yeah, there would be times that when we would be talking about it, they would, I've got a boy and he, likes to make jokes about different things. So, you have to correct that and make them understand that under no uncertain circumstances, these are not toys, these are not playthings, these are not things to joke about. And then when we go out on the range and we're actually target shooting and practicing, there's always mistakes that are made. Again, we're not perfect beings, and it's just as long as you treat that like it's a learning experience, a learning opportunity. The bad thing or the negative thing that's taking place is usually diminished in the future if you take care of it properly.
How many times do you usually train with your kids? Like, how many times do you bring them out? I mean, how often does that occur? We do it
a couple times a year. I should really do it more than just a few times a year. But I'm a hoarder when it comes to my ammunition, and I just like to know that I have enough for my needs. Although it is important to continue to prepare and use what you have and cycle through your collection of ammunition. But we probably don't do it as much as we should, or as much as I feel like we should.
Right, and how did you go about when you trained them? One of the things you talked about was you tried to create reality by having them shout different things towards the targets. Kind of explain that one. Although it's amusing, it's actually pretty intelligent thing to do, because it's one thing to practice, even in martial arts, it's one thing to practice it, but when you have someone coming at you, it's a whole nother ball game. So explain
it gives it a more realistic effect. From my days in the military or my days in the fire department, you train the way that you're going to react. If you don't train the way that you're going to do it in real life, then you're not going to do it in real life the way you're supposed to. And so one of the ways that we've worked with the kids and even my wife in target practice is we have a target that we use, and it's a stand, and we staple a silhouette to a couple of 1x2s. And then we throw, you can go down to Goodwill or Salvation Army and buy a half a dozen T-shirts for $2, and we'll throw T-shirts on top of the silhouette, and then we'll even put a hat on top of the silhouette. And it gives it a much more realistic feel that, hey, I'm not just shooting a piece of cardboard out in the desert. I'm shooting at a person. And again, it's not to teach them to shoot to kill people, it's to shoot to defend yourself. And I prepare my kids to shoot and to pull the weapon out and to let the people know that they're armed and that they are going to shoot and that they need to stop, and they yell and scream. And not only that, but it also draws attention if there's someone out, and for my wife who carries concealed, or myself that carries concealed. If you're out and about and if you can draw as much attention to yourself as possible, you've got a whole lot more safety in numbers. They're taught how to shoot in a crowd. They're taught how to shoot from a standing position, from a laying down position. They're taught how to shoot from a moving position. It's just so vital that you try to cover as many bases as possible so that your kids are as prepared as possible. I mean, as parents, that's our job. As a parent, it's your job to teach that child how to survive in the world so that when they're 18, 19, 20, however it is, when they leave your home, they're capable of going out and being responsible adults that can contribute to society. And I feel that by, and this is only one aspect of the things that I teach my children, but teaching them to be able to protect themselves and to handle weapons respectfully is something that they need to be a contributing member to society.